Hello guys and welcome to a new video. Today I will be talking about From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. Let me just say, that title is ass. I mean, how less or how low of hopes does a studio need to have to make a title for a movie and then include From the World of John Wick? Just imagine the Fantastic Four movie being From the World of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Fantastic Four, the first steps, something like that. It's not necessary. Get your marketing straight and everyone will go to your movie nonetheless. But yeah, it's what we have. And I have to say, when this movie was first announced, I had expectations. They were kind of high because, well, of course, the John Wick universe that's a quite standard high point of action movies. Like, we now have an entire Wikiverse, like the John Wikiverse, not the Wiki, but Wikiverse, you get it? I have no idea what this universe is going to be called, the John Wick universe. But right now we have 4 movies and a TV show about it. 4 movies, John Wick Chapter 1 all the way to Chapter 4, which are all awesome, all equally awesome, I guess, because I gave them all 4 stars and hearts. So that's around your standard for me for a John Wick movie. And then we have that series, The Continental, that aired on Prime 2 years ago, and I absolutely hated that. I didn't hate it. I liked what they are trying to do, but it was incredibly boring, like incredibly boring, and I couldn't help it, and I did not enjoy that show, and it's already banned from my mind, so that is not a real talk-worthy plot thing for me, I guess. But that being said, well, now we have Ballerina, and Ballerina is taking place in between chapters 3 and 4, and they are talking about their inclusion, about being in there, being squatted in there, and that's also where the main problem with the movie lies, because yes, let me just get it straight, the movie is good. The movie is really good even. The movie is phenomenal on the action standpoint. And then you have the rest of the movie, which is just the basic story, and that's where the movie completely flatlines for me, because the story doesn't really work at all. But they have this thing where it's placed between chapters 3 and chapter 4, and it's both a blessing and a curse, because of course having that means, if you haven't seen John Wick chapter 4 yet, skip 10 seconds, but John Wick is dead. Well, he's going to be dead for a long time, I guess, because they are making chapter 5, but he is for now. With that being said, he could be in this movie, and of course, for money reasons, they put him in there, and he has around 2 cameos, which gives both the blessing and the curse, because they completely written it out in Ballerina that he is going to show up at some point, and he shows up at some point, and it's one of the most logical things ever, because it completely ties in to John Wick Parabellum, to chapter 3. It completely, perfectly solves everything. Then a few months go by again, and then you have another John Wick cameo. And near the end of the movie, to have him do there something else as well, for the people to get drawn in and for your trailer to make some more sense. And that's where the movie fails for me, because his cameo didn't really need to be there. But for me personally, it also did not make any sense. Like, if you see John Wick chapter 3 and then go into John Wick chapter 4, there is something wrong with that story, and there's something not making any sense, like him going on a side quest basically in there to go and do Ballerina. I am missing some story there. I feel like there is something missing between chapter 3 and chapter 4, which followed up perfectly and followed up quite naturally, and now he apparently went somewhere else. I have no idea why, but that's something that happened, and I wasn't really sure as to why they did it other than money reasons. Maybe it wasn't the best choice to include him there as well, but I was happy he showed up earlier, because that scene was absolutely perfect. More than absolutely perfect even. We also have Ian McShane and Lance Reddick, RIP, coming back, and that was really wholesome and really awesome. So those are your inclusions. Like, yes, this is a John Wick universe movie, and you can definitely feel it in both some sorts of the story, but also the action, but also Ana de Armas just killing it. Ana de Armas is absolutely phenomenal in this movie. And of course, she set a standard for action movies when she was included in No Time to Die from the James Bond universe, and one of the main problems everyone had with that movie was Ana de Armas not being in it enough, which is really good for that girl, and I'm really happy for her, but she didn't really get a standard after that. Like, I thought she would get the A-list actor status after Knives Out, but that really didn't happen, as she didn't really pop off after that. And then she made Ghosted, which didn't help, and then she also made No Time to Die, of course, which kind of could have helped, but also didn't. So I hope with Ballerina that she does get it, and that we can now see her pop up in even more things and even more famous things. Like, she deserves it. She's really great, and God took his time when he created that woman. So yeah, she was absolutely phenomenal, and she fitted perfectly in this world. The way she acted, the way she did things, the way she did the action was all great. The thing that wasn't great was the story. And the story is mostly because it's so threadbarely thin, like that you completely forget there even is a story at some point. And when they go back to the story, it just confuses you for a second. Like, what was the reason for this? Why are they doing this again? And then it's just like, okay, I guess you do you. I'll be happy with it whatsoever. But yeah, there is a story for this, and there's a story that ties into what John Wick suffered in John Wick Chapter 1, which also was a big setup for the rest of these movies. So it does take a while for this movie to pop off into the action that we know from John Wick Chapter 2, 3, and 4, because they have to do the setup, and the setup in the John Wick universe, in the John Wick films, they had it with Chapter 1. And that was really great, so they didn't really need a setup for Chapter 2 to 4. In this one, they tried to mix best of both worlds, but the fun and the sad part is that one of those worlds is absolutely awesome, which is the acting directed by Chad Stahelski, and then the story directed by Len Wiseman, which is something you can notice incredibly hard. Len Wiseman is the director of this movie, which is apparent. He also made one of the Underworld movies and Live Free or Die Hard, one of the Die Hard sequels, and both of those movies aren't received that well. Why bring him in? No one knows, but we are fair, we give everyone a chance at redemption, and apparently in the test screenings he did not really fulfill his shot at redemption, because the movie was ass, apparently. I have no idea how much of the story is true and how much of the story is just the internet making things bigger, but apparently the test screens were that awful that they really had to change the movie, so they delayed it for over a year, brought in Chad Stahelski, the director of the first 4 John Wick movies, to save the action and save the movie, and that's what they did, and that's the movie that we cooked up with. So we can definitely say, if that story is true, that John Wick from the world of John Wick, Ballerina, definitely is one of the rare examples where reshoots save a movie. The story, it's a revenge action thriller, and the revenge part is okay, but it's not really necessary, and it feels a bit as a rehashment of John Wick, and that's because the movie takes a lot of inspiration from those other John Wick movies, so you automatically compare it to John Wick. It's not strong enough on its own to be its own thing that you can't really see different from John Wick. Like, The Continental did not have that problem, mainly because that was just a series. It had tie-ins and it had some great things with The Continental and stuff like that, so it really was a part of the world of John Wick, but it felt like its own thing. This movie felt like a spin-off revamp of what we have seen before. And what you get when you have similarities, or so many similarities between two projects, you will always compare it to the better project, which was the original, which is the John Wick main timeline and the main John Wick universe. And with the story elements, they really butchered it. Like, absolutely. On the fight sequences, though, which is the main important reason for a John Wick movie or a Ballerina movie, is the action. Because the action in a John Wick movie is something worth talking about. It's something that the movie definitely resolves around. And you can see the similarities between Ana de Armas and Keanu Reeves, and in the way that they act this and the way that they use their environments. What I really loved about Ballerina is that we see some of that training, and where we see someone talk to the ballerina like, you're smaller, you're not that strong, use the things to your advantage, play dirty, cheat, and that was really good. And then we got some training montages, which was really awesome, so that you can see like how they do this adapting, and then you get to the action in around half of the movie, and from that point on the movie is just straight up action without anything else, and it's really good because the action is superb. And I was continuously looking for the thing that would be memorized the most, which, like, for John Wick Chapter 2, you have, oh my god, I need to think about it. I've seen that movie I haven't seen it in such a long time. Actually can't say anything. But for Chapter 3, you definitely have the knife scene. And for Chapter 4, you definitely have the staircase or the top-down view or just anything. And like in this movie, they have a couple of those moments that could have been cemented as the greatest action sequence in the movie. At first, I thought it was going to be the grenades. And the grenades are definitely up there because there are some very gnarly shit happening. There's some very gnarly shit happening with those grenades, which is awesome in every single way. Then you got the plates, and I thought from the trailer and from the clip that they released that the plates were going to be my favorite, but I have to say the grenades were better. But then we had the flamethrower scene. There is a flamethrower scene in this, and a flamethrower fight scene. It's an entire sequence with flamethrowers, and might be one of my favorite fight sequences in the entire franchise. I'm gonna say it. That was awesome. I was on the edge of my seat. I was laughing my ass off, not with enjoyment or not because of the funniness of it all, but just because of the pure excitement that that scene gave me. It was so incredibly awesome. I loved it. So yes, from the world of John Wick, Ballerina, it's a worthy inclusion in the John Wick universe. It's not as good as the John Wick movies, and you are going to make comparisons because of the many similarities. John Wick was centered in it, and Ana de Armas definitely is a star, and I hope we see more of her in the future. There are some other John Wick projects in the making, like the Kane movie and the Chapter 5, so we will definitely not be done with this universe yet. Alright, have you seen From the World of John Wick, Ballerina? What did you think of it? Please let me know. I am going to give this one 3.5 stars and the heart because the action was that insanely cool to watch. What did you think of it? Let me know, and please leave a comment, a like, and a subscribe on my channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys for watching. Bye bye.